Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Historical Humans Heritage. And if you watched our most recent podcast on the Choson Korea, then you'll understand what this is. We are going to be looking at the royal tombs of the Joseon Dynasty, and if you don't know, prepare to get learnt in the next, 10 minutes or so, hopefully?
The Choson or Joseon dynasty was a dynasty that ruled Korea for about 500 years. And these are their tombs. It is a collection of 40 tombs scattered across 18 locations, built throughout the entirety of the Joseon dynasty's reign. They are incredibly influential to Korean history and have even had influence on the course of both Chinese and Japanese history.
Ooh.
And this is the final resting place of their great leaders.
Honestly, it's a very, very beautiful. Um,
Oh yeah, very beautiful shrine.
Honestly, yeah. Like, there's a lot of aspects to it, and you can see certain evolutions of it over time just looking at the image from the different mounds, statues, carvings, rock formations. Like, it's just gorgeous. Wow. Great honor to their many, many leaders, it seems.
Yes, the aesthetic you're admiring is called pungsu, which is the idea of creating a delicate setting for a living tradition of ancestral worship and all the rituals associated with that.
Wow, that's a
Um,
big statue.
yeah, the royal tombs here actually have a ordering of the areas, moving from the mundane to the sacred, sort of serving as a transition site through which one can progress to perform rituals. This is less like the American graveyard where you pull in, you park, you step out, you're already at someone's final resting place.
Yeah,
Uh,
this is more of like an honoring a monument. Like you said, very ritualistic. You can go here, worship, and be able to pay your respects and truly have that spiritual connection to it.
Yeah, there's a mini pilgrimage that you have to take on from the point at which you enter the space until you reach the point at which people are actually interred.
So it's a really, really interesting site. And one of the reasons this is truly historic is the Joseon dynasty was the second longest reigning dynasty in
In Korean history.
yeah, in Korean history, and completes 5,000 years worth of royal tombs and architecture on the Korean peninsula.
Yeah, they were also the last royal dynasty in Korean history.
Yeah, ending in 1910 thanks to Imperial Meiji Restoration Japan,
Yeah. However, work on the tombs did not stop until 1966.
which is
Uh,
honestly
presum-
very impressive that they
yeah,
kept it going for
presumably,
so long.
presumably getting the final few members who held the crown into royal architecture as best they could.
Yeah. But the cool thing about this is it was built up and continued from the very first ruler in the 13th century all the way up to 1966. So you have 551 or 548 years worth of history there. Like, that's
Yeah.
a long time just in one gravesite, and for it to be one dynastic family ruling, like, that is really quite quite impressive.
Oh yes, definitely, and it is the architecture alone is worthy of its inclusion alongside that's nothing at all compared to the total historical context uh, surrounding it. Yeah, it's there's really little explanation needed as to why this is a UNESCO heritage site. It's kind of just from the things we've had to say to describe what it is. It's fairly obvious.
But even to compound on that, it takes Confucian principles, beliefs, and it really implements them in a masterful way where these tombs and this like pilgrimage to get from each section of the of the tombs, it really is integrated into the landscape. It's integrated into the culture. It takes this natural setting and it builds upon it. It doesn't remove from it. And I think a lot of times in terms of rulers and their final resting place, ego and, you know, attitude really just build into it and expound upon it. And it just creates this like whirlwind vacuum chamber where they just keep going bigger and larger and more grandeur. Whereas this is very tasteful, I find, and respectful, it seems.
It is very respectful, and in terms of its protections and integrity, there is strict legislation that ensures that development within any sight line um, of these tombs is strictly controlled. That said, there has been uh, some minor urban development within view of three of them, but this is minor changes that have occurred only that are only visible from the very tops of the tomb, and are really just more of a testament to the fact that these were built on points of high ground rather than anything else. Since those three have had their view lines partially compromised, even stricter legislation has been put in place to further ensure that only minor details change.
People don't tend to realize that viewshed ends up being an important aspect to a lot of these historic places. And viewshed can be impacted by the smallest thing, whether it be like a cell phone tower, a radio tower, to large skyscrapers. It could be any number of things that really can impact these sites. So it's good that they do that. And one of the cool things that I find about this listing is it does also mention and highlight that over time, certain elements of the site have been reconstructed, have been worked on, and a lot of that has to do with them being used of with the use of wood as a building material. So they would
Yes.
repair it, they would reconstruct it, they keep working on it, keep adjusting it, which keeps it alive and keeps it in good condition.
Because the purpose of these tombs is to experience a living tradition of ancestral worship and reverence. And honestly, as you know, so naturally, there'd be continued use and continued change to the site. However, the UNESCO does note that the changes are usually very minor and don't really happen that often, as what is occurring is something is wearing out and people are immediately replacing it with an identical newer version of that thing.
Yeah. And the
So it's
things
more
that are
maintenance than anything else.
And one of the things we didn't even talk about was what contributes to the site. So there's the burial area, which has the royal tombs that feature a ceremonial area and entrance. There's burial mounds, associated buildings which are part of the tombs with the T-shaped wooden shrine, a shed for stela, a royal kitchen, guard's house, a red spiked gate, a tomb keeper's house, and the grounds are adorned on the outside with a range of stone objects, including the figures of people and animals. So there's a lot to this, and the spots of the natural beauty were chosen for the tombs, which typically have their back protected by a hill and face southward toward water, ideally, layers of mountain ridges in the distance. So just, they chose the most beautiful site they could,
Yeah,
respectfully.
yeah, and it's yeah, and I think that's a great place to leave it off here because this is just a point of beauty, and the sites are currently located in South Korea. So if you live in most of the world, you can in fact visit them.
Yes, unless you live in one single country, in which case you can still visit it because you're considered a citizen.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next video.